Out of Los Angeles, a live chase is taking place there in Southern California. Let's get you out to it right now here on Live Now from our Fox 11 team there.
Here we go.
Probably trying to make a left turn there. Wow, that's pretty scary. But we talk about suspects sometimes go to an area that is familiar to them, comfortable to them, where they know the streets. This car right here in Inglewood, like I said, coming up on this rush hour traffic where it could get very busy in other parts of SoCal.
Right, and so at this point, though, this is not, I mean, I guess it's labeled as a pursuit, but it's not technically a pursuit. You know, we don't know if they're in tracking mode or if they are simply sort of moving on from this person because it was so dangerous. We don't see the lights and sirens behind this vehicle. Sometimes law enforcement makes the decision to back off. In part because they deem that the risk to the public is greater than the risk of keeping this thing going. So right now, this guy or gal is essentially just ran through a stop sign there, essentially on his or her own.
You know, we think of the school year times at like 3:30, we'd have a lot of students coming out of school, parents picking up their kids, people walking back to their homes perhaps. It's the summer months now. There could be pedestrians out at all hours. Haven't seen many because it's been so hot today. So perhaps a lot of people are indoors kind of still keeping cool until it gets a little darker out, a little cooler out. So I haven't seen pedestrians, I haven't seen people walking their dogs just yet. You just see this car circling around here in the Inglewood area. This is an odd place to make a left.
It is. So we wonder, does this driver have a connection, as you mentioned, to this neighborhood? Is this person looking for a place to ditch this car? Are they familiar with this neighborhood and maybe trying to go home or go to a friend's house, again, through another stop sign? Not worried about that. You know, we don't know why this particular area is an area of focus. Oftentimes that is what we see.
So look there as that car blows through that stop sign there. We want to show you some video from earlier where that driver is driving in the wrong lanes, crossing over those lanes. This is the wrong way in this box here that you're seeing. Look at the cars there. That part, that's the really scary part. If a driver's willing to do that with police on their tail, you see an officer right there in that video, that bigger box there. You see an officer right there with that suspect. That is where the danger came in, and that perhaps, Alex, is what police saw. They said we better back off this for the safety of the public.
And what we don't know also is sort of what led to the beginning of this. The way that this person is driving so wildly with this Kia Optima, it leads you to believe that there's probably more to this story than just a stolen vehicle. That this person most likely, statistically, had some interaction with the law before. Don't know if this person is out on parole or is concerned about being caught, going back to prison, and is desperate to get away and to ride this thing out because, you know, this person is driving really frantically and wildly and not the way that, you know, most people would act or interact with law enforcement.
Well, we also don't know how this vehicle was stolen and from whom. Is it somebody that they know? Do police have perhaps some leads on who this driver is? Perhaps they know exactly who it is and can find this person later, kind of thing. We know where to find you, kind of thing.
And was it stolen with a gun? Yeah. Was it, you know, an armed situation? And if so, does that make this situation, you know, obviously more dangerous? And maybe one of the reasons why law enforcement is not actively pursuing this driver.
Is that the wrong way? It looks to me like that person might be in lanes. Yeah, oof. That was the wrong way in those lanes there. Perhaps that driver took that turn wider than they expected or thought, but they quickly got over into the correct lanes, making you now going back that same direction in those wrong lanes. Makes you wonder if the person knows where they're going, being they got caught up there in that U-turn. They got to know those helicopters overhead. Maybe police aren't right there behind them, but they got to know those helicopters are following them.
Although sometimes when you know, they fall back into this so-called tracking mode, which is where they're just followed from above and not followed from the ground. Part of the reason that they do that is to try to have the driver drive not as wildly. This guy's still driving pretty wildly, even though nobody's right behind him or her.
Let's bring in one man who knows these pursuits very well from the air, our Stu Mendel from Sky Fox. Stu, as you're watching this pursuit, you know, sometimes the driver will stop at a red light, and sometimes the driver will make very dangerous. Well, there's traffic there.
Stop.
So they may not be able to go anywhere except the wrong way or the wrong lane. Stu, take it over.
Well, you know, you can see it right there. He kind of slowed down, but now he's speeding up again. I kind of just joining you guys, and I'm just understanding it's Harbor Gateway, so that's going to be they're going to be tight streets out there, and it looks like he's on. I can't really make that out. It looks like he's on 120th and Vermont. So you know, those are going to be busy streets. At least he's slowing down right there. I see some damage on the car already. I joined in a little earlier there, and I heard him talking about they went into tracking mode. And that explains why there's nobody behind him. I would be saying right now that, you know, he's making some aggressive moves, but, you know, he's not passing everybody. He's not kind of trying to push his way between the vehicles. So the tactic of going into that tracking mode seems to be working for this situation. Now, does this person just kind of figure that there's nobody behind me? Probably not. We've seen that so many times in the past. They're going to hear the helicopters. They're going to know the helicopters are following. And I've actually even spoke to somebody at one time saying that they were watching on an app, and maybe he is watching this right now on that Fox app, so he knows that there are some helicopters behind him. A little indecision right there. And you know, when you see that kind of turn, like that swerve, that kind of gives you the idea that maybe he knows where he is. You know, because it looked like he wanted to go down that street, but he changed his mind on that last second. Very residential right there, speeds a little bit slower. So the tactics that law enforcement is using seems to be working. But again, stolen vehicle, and maybe you guys can fill me in. How did that damage get on the front of the car?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure we know about that. Side swipe?
Yeah,
okay.
It looked like he swiped another vehicle a little bit earlier.
Well, Stu, what I'm also noticing is this driver has not chosen to get back on the freeway. You're real close to the 110 freeway, the 105, and this driver is not jumping on those freeways.
Not jumping on the freeway, so that, you know, this might be one of those he's kind of, and again, we're seeing that he was on he was on Vermont, then he was 120th Street, so now he's back on 120th Street. It looks like, yeah, he probably knows this area. It's like he's starting to circle. He's not circling the drain by any means, and there was a black and white in the shot going the other direction, so that shows you that law enforcement is in the area. Driving kind of slow right there. Looks like he's picking his spot. You know, I know who's the camera at Sky Fox right now. No, maybe it's,
yeah.
And
is he bailing?
He's up against the pole. He's up against the pole, so he can't. He made a decision there. He's going to have to back up to get out. So that's kind of odd. He kind of boxed himself in. There he goes. You can see that door opening.
Getting out.
And this is. I was going to say, and this is where the helicopter is going to come into play. I can tell you right now, I can hear the audio in my head. The helicopter is calling it out, saying you got a suspect out there, red hat, shorts, getting out of the vehicle. And I don't know why those officers aren't swooping in. They might not understand that he's in the alleyway, but he has no kind of rush. He seems to be extremely calm about this and just kind of walking away from that vehicle. Right now, though, I'm sure whatever the law enforcement is down there, they're going to be coming.
What's in his hand? Something's in his hand.
Well, you know,
does he have keys to get into another vehicle?
It could be keys to get into another vehicle. I'm guessing 2 cell phones. I'm thinking that he's got a cell phone in one hand and he's actually talking on the other one right now, or at least watching maybe the app, trying, you know, seeing like maybe they're watching me. I'm surprised that law enforcement not there yet, and he has no kind of urgency at all. Just looking over the shoulder. That's about it. But right now, just kind of walking along out there. But I can tell you that helicopter giving out the description. And this is a very, you know, red hat, black T-shirt. Come on. You might as well just be wearing a yellow jacket saying, I'm the bad guy.
Stu, it's almost maddening watching this from our, you know, armchair quarterback seats here, where it's like, he's right there. You just want to reach out and grab him. This is the guy from the stolen car pursuit who's just walking calmly down the alleyway. Where's he going to go? And you worry about other people, pedestrians and homeowners. Is he going to go into somebody else's house? Is he going to try to carjack somebody?
Well, it seems like we're more interested in this guy than the law enforcement, because you don't see them, right? I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that. I mean, maybe they chose, you know, to stay off this.
You know, This is the thing. It's like now he's back on a major street out there. That helicopter has got to be giving out calls right now saying where this guy is. I wish I had access to a scanner. We did see a black and white very close to that car earlier on. But right now, this suspect just continuing to walk along out there. I am sure that there's an officer watching this right now. They've got that address right there, and now did he get out of there? He's just casually walking.
All right, are we going to see a dog soon? Are we gonna, this is like a comfortable stroll that this guy's just taken through the neighborhood. Couldn't be more obvious, wearing the red. And now he's talking on the phone to a buddy. We don't know what's going on with this. I mean, you thought at some point that he chose that particular spot, which is kind of a weird spot to ditch the car, that he probably had some connection to this neighborhood, and that maybe it was his house or a friend's house or a family member's house that he would go into.
There was a black car that just made a U-turn on the backside of that tree.
Is he going to get into another car?
I'm sure Skyfax. Oh, we don't know. That I'm just kind of wondering. That black car that's right there in front of the white one made a U-turn as he came up to that intersection. So, but no,
there he is.
Still there.
No, there he is.
I mean,
still walking.
You have to wonder: is he calling someone to come pick him up? How far does he keep on going?
Guess.
Are we headed to a lemonade stand? Like, what's happening?
Gonna just kind of show up in front of his house, get his mail, and go to walk inside. It is so, and you're right. It is so frustrating, and I can just imagine what those law enforcement that were behind him earlier on now, able to see this guy out walking, and they just kind of let it go. They want to get the bad guy. That's kind of their gig. That's what it's all about. And now this guy just out there walking along on the streets, and absolutely no law enforcement there. It makes me wonder if they were in tracking mode, or if they literally just gave it up. Because, that helicopter, they would be calling it out right now. There'd be black and whites coming from all directions, making their way over to get this guy. So my guess is it might not have even been tracking mode. It might have just been straight out. We're just going to let this guy go. It's too dangerous. It's just a stolen car. Nobody's been hurt. It wasn't a carjacking. So right now, it's a tough one. And now he's underneath the bridge, and we've seen that happen a couple times in the past. And there you go. The Skyfox basically saying there's law enforcement right there. So my guess is somebody with, making the decision said, just let this guy go for whatever reason it was.
Okay, well, I guess with that guidance, we're going to let this guy go.
Yeah.
Good luck, dude. So that was something. Stu Wendell, thank you for your contribution on that. And if we get any new information about what happened to this guy on his nice summer stroll, we'll let you know. In the meantime, we've got a lot of other serious news we want to get to, Stu. And we start with...
You were just listening in there to our Fox 11 team, but we do have a helicopter shot still atop, as you can see now. Police potentially in pursuit of this stolen vehicle suspect. We did see him get out of the car, so as of yet, don't see anything picking him up there. But we're just following this here on Live Now from Fox, and of course they will dive back in as we can, but you can see our helicopter over top as they're pursuing this. He jumped out of a car in an alleyway. Now police are coming up to this officer, and the suspect is not putting up any fight, as he put his hands behind his head there, this suspect that we're following here on Live Now from Fox. As this comes to a conclusion, a safe one, of course, just one officer on hand there in South Los Angeles. As we continue on here on Live Now from Fox, as this one comes to an end. Potentially, they weren't pursuing him with the helicopter, as there wasn't really, he went for a casual stroll in South Los Angeles after stealing this vehicle. They're now detaining him, putting some handcuffs on him as other black and white vehicles finally show up at the scene. This individual wearing a red hat there and a black shirt. So didn't put any fight up at the end, as he was just casually walking away from this. So let's just continue on here on Live Now from Fox. Let's get you over to our Fox 11 team one more time as they continue to cover this story there here on Live Now.
who exactly this person is and why all these different agencies were involved in this. The good news is nobody's seriously hurt, and that pursuit now an end. So wanted to give you some closure on that. So now let's take you back to the story that we were just talking about.
All right, so let's take you back to out here as we're just going to keep watching this for just a little bit here on Live and Now from Fox as they're diving in and out of coverage. Of course, they're doing their thing. We're doing our thing here on Live Now, but this is what we continue to follow, this major story there. The police pursuing this stolen vehicle suspect in handcuffs now, getting put in the back of the black and white. Of course, potentially the helicopter could go over and see how the police handled that vehicle that is left abandoned in that alley. So we're going to continue to follow this here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. Let's slide away for a quick 2-minute break.